no medications, no pills, only 3 natural foods, and scientifically proven, rekindled the desire, restored the firmness, and brought back something he thought he had lost forever: the pride of being a man. In this video, you'll find out what these foods are, why they work, and how to apply them today. A deep, scientifically based account made for men who want to live with vitality, power, and pleasure even after 60. Watch to the end. The body can grow old, but desire doesn't have to die with it. Sign up to receive new videos on male sexuality, health, and vitality after 60. I didn't expect a simple plate of breakfast to change my intimate life. By the time I was 62, I had already accepted that some things just don't come back. The vigor, the desire, that firm erection that doesn't make you think twice. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a man who still thought like he was 40, but his body? The body told another story. On the outside, I looked healthy. He didn't smoke, drank little drink, walked the dog every day. But inside, something was quietly extinguishing the flame. The libido faded slowly, like a candle left in the corner. And worse, when I tried, nothing happened. No response, no firmness. That messed with self-esteem in a way I couldn't explain. It wasn't just about sex, it was about identity. I avoided talking to friends. Everyone pretended that this was not an issue. But I knew. I knew from the way they changed the subject, how they smiled when someone talked about intimate life after 60. It was taboo, and I was tired of pretending. It was in a conversation with my younger brother, a practical, direct, somewhat naturalistic guy, that I heard the first sentence that really poked me. "You're eating breakfast like you're still 20. I laughed. "Coffee is coffee, a loaf of bread, sometimes a fruit." He shook his head. "What you eat in the morning sets your hormones for the rest of the day." That kept hammering. Hormones? For breakfast? I returned home, and for the first time, I started to do real research. I found that many of the traditional foods, white bread, jam, margarine, completely sabotage testosterone production. Every day you start with refined sugar or empty carbohydrate, you're turning off the switch on your own body. What's more, I discovered that there are natural foods that go the opposite way. They stimulate blood circulation, balance hormone levels, and activate neurotransmitters linked to pleasure and desire. That's when I decided to test a new routine. For 7 days in a row, I put together a breakfast based on 3 simple and scientifically proven bar ingredients. No medicine, no miracle formulas, only real food. The first was avocado. Rich in good fats, it helps in the production of testosterone and improves circulation. But it was not only that. I found that it contains vitamin B6, which reduces cortisol, the stress hormone. And stress is one of the great villains of intimate life. The second was pumpkin seeds. Few people pay attention to them, but they are loaded with zinc, a mineral essential for male sexual function. Studies show that low levels of zinc are directly linked to erectile dysfunction. The third was an ingredient that always seemed to me women's stuff, Peruvian maca. But the truth is that this root has been used for centuries to improve male libido. It does not act as an instant stimulant, but as a balancer, and when included in breakfast, its effects are noticeable within a few days. I put everything together in a bowl: mashed avocado, toasted seeds, a spoonful of maca powder, a drizzle of raw honey. At first I was surprised. It looked like something out of an alternative magazine, but I ate every day for 7 days. On the 3rd day, something changed. It was not a miracle. It wasn't like taking a blue pill. It was more subtle and more true. I woke up with that forgotten feeling. I woke up with my body responding firmly. I woke up with a craving. And more importantly, I felt alive. Not like an old man trying to relive the past, but as a man who has understood that the body still wants it, it just needs to be listened to. On the 5th day, I also noticed something else. My mood improved. I felt lighter, more active, more centered. Negative thoughts disappeared. It was as if, along with firmness, the silent pride of being well with oneself also returned. At the end of the 7 days, I was sure of one thing. No one talks about it because they are ashamed. But everyone needs to know. There are natural, real, and effective ways to regain inner vigor at the age of 60. And it can all begin for the first meal of the day. In the days that followed, that new routine stopped being an experiment and became part of my way of life. It was as if each morning became a kind of ritual, not just because of the breakfast itself, but because of the feeling that I was doing something concrete for my body, something that gave me back control. At 62, I realized that this was more valuable than any quick promise or miracle pill. As I went deeper, I realized that the foods I was consuming acted intelligently on the body. They didn't just feed, they instructed. Yes, they did. The body is an amazing machine, but it needs the right signals. And I had spent years giving the wrong signals. Inflammatory, industrialized foods full of additives. All of this confused my biology, sending the wrong message. You're tired. You don't need it anymore. Let it go. But with each spoonful of the new morning concoction, it was as if I said to myself, I'm still here, I still can. And the body answered. The following week, I added other natural elements. I introduced walnuts and chestnuts, sources of magnesium, another mineral crucial for testosterone production. I also started to consume pure cocoa, mixed in small doses with Peruvian maca. Cocoa, unlike common chocolate, is a vasodilator and natural stimulant, capable of improving blood circulation and releasing endorphins. Yes, it literally makes the brain smile. With these changes, I realized something I never imagined. My mind was clearer. The relationship between intimate energy and mental focus is much stronger than I thought. I started waking up earlier, with more energy. I started to walk more vigorously, and my wife noticed. She didn't say it right away. But in her eyes, something had changed. That mixture of surprise and quiet satisfaction. The first time in weeks that we touched each other with real desire, no effort, no embarrassment, no tension, was like a reconciliation, not only between us, but between me and the man I thought I had lost. The most curious thing is that all this started with no intention of impressing anyone. It was not out of vanity, it was for dignity, for health. And that's when I understood that regaining potency is not just about sex. It's about identity, vitality, self-esteem, presence. I continued reading studies, articles, watching doctors explain how food modulates hormones with more impact than you might think. I learned that foods like free-range eggs, rich in good cholesterol, are crucial for testosterone synthesis. That extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil activate metabolic processes that favor endocrine function. And I gradually replaced everything that got in the way. White breads with naturally fermented wholemeal breads, regular milk with unsweetened vegetables, margarine with avocado, pure coffee instead of sweetened ones. It wasn't a diet, it was a choice, a realignment. I talked to my brother again and told him everything. He smiled and told me something I haven't forgotten. You don't need miracles, it needs consistency. And he was right. I started to write down my signs of progress. Within a fortnight, my energy level was above what I had felt for at least 10 years. My erection, firm, natural, anxiety-free. My mood, balanced. My sleep, deep. And more than that, my confidence in myself had returned. Gradually, I realized that everything was connected. What we eat when we wake up defines our hormonal axis for the next 12 hours. And that's what no one tells men my age. We are pushed to blue pills, as if that were a solution. But these pills treat the symptom, not the cause, and they still cause side effects that no one talks about. On the contrary, when you give your body the right building blocks, nutrients, good fats, essential minerals, it rebuilds itself. It starts within, silently but continuously. And the result? It's life coming back with force. I went back to living with more intention. I went back to taking care of my body as something sacred, not as a burden. And I understood that men of my generation need to hear this. They need to know that there is another way. Natural, effective, sustainable. It is not about being young again. It is about being whole, even at 60. To be a man with a capital H. Not by force, but by presence. For clarity, for vitality that is born every day at the first meal. Over time, that simple daily choice, what to put on my plate when I woke up, began to teach me much greater things than I imagined. I learned, for example, that what society calls aging is often actually an accumulation of silent neglect. It is not time that brings us down. It's the poorly taught habits, the wrong foods, the early giving up on taking care of yourself. Over the next few months, I started talking about it with more people. First with 2 friends who always complained of tiredness and dull, intimate life. I told you my experience. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't promise anything. I just showed what I made. Avocado, seeds, Peruvian maca, cocoa, nuts, a little olive oil, an egg boiled every other day, a slice of slow fermented bread, ginger tea in place of charged coffee. They laughed at first, but they agreed to try for a week. In the second week, one of them called me, "Man, I don't know what happened, but tonight, it was different." The other, more discreet, just sent me a message with 3 words, "It's working again." And then I realized it was as if I had turned on a light, not only in me, but also in them. Most men my age don't want to look weak. He does not want to admit that he has lost control over his own body. That is why many are silent. They resign themselves. They gradually disappear within themselves, but it doesn't have to be this way. When you begin to understand that your body can still produce everything it needs, desire, energy, steadiness, pleasure, as long as it gets the right nourishment and the respect it needs, everything changes. I also realized that other elements of my day were influencing. The cold shower in the morning activated circulation. Breathing deeply before eating decreased stress. Replacing tragic news with soft music when waking up brought a state of lightness that the body recognized. It was as if nature had been waiting for me all this time, and now he welcomed me back. My wife looked at me differently. She didn't know all the details of what I ate, nor what I researched. But she knew by the way I touched her, by the mood in the mornings, by the sparkle that returned to my eyes. We had been together for decades, but something between us reignited, and I knew it came from within. Not a medicine, not an obligation. It came from what is built slowly, with consistency and intention. When I told the full story to a healthcare provider I respected, he told me something that stuck with me. Adam, what you did was more powerful than any prescription. You reconnected hormone, food, mind, and emotion. And that's what I want every man after 60 to understand. This is not a miracle. This is not a fad diet. It's science. It's nature. It is reconnection with what our body has been programmed to do. We were made to feel pleasure, to desire, to have vitality, even with wrinkles, even with white hair. Today, I still eat that same breakfast. With slight variations, of course, but the ritual remains. And every time I slice the avocado, when I sprinkle the seeds on top, when I smell the aroma of cocoa and cinnamon mixed in the air, I remind myself I'm choosing to live, not surviving. Live. And if you've come this far, listening to all this, you may have already felt that something inside you also wants to breathe harder again. Don't ignore it. Your body is calling you. Your desire is only dormant, not dead. You don't need miracle formulas. You need real food, respect for yourself, and time. The time you now have and can use to change everything. Because regaining erection, libido, strength, it's not just a matter of pleasure, it's a matter of identity, dignity, and presence. And all that, it starts when you choose what you put on your plate at dawn. Subscribe for more videos on male power, vitality, and longevity after 60. Comment below, I want my energy back, if you are also ready for this transformation.